You recognize it immediately, a crucifixion, the most painted subject in Western history. A figure suspended in that familiar pose, arms outstretched, body still, the weight of the world gathered into a single human form. For a moment, you feel certain you understand what you are looking at. And then something stops you. The cross isn't wood. It has no grain, no splinters, no history of a tree that was once alive. What holds Christ is golden, geometric, and precisely assembled from 8 identical cubes unfolding outward in a shape that should not be possible. A shape that exists comfortably in mathematical equations but refuses to exist in the physical world. A structure that belongs, technically, to a dimension beyond the reach of human senses. The cross is a tesseract, an unfolded hypercube, a 4-dimensional object projected into 3-dimensional space. The way a shadow is the projection of a solid thing it can never fully become. You have seen thousands of crucifixions. You have never seen this one. And the longer you look, the more the familiar image quietly fractures. Salvador Dalí was not a man who stumbled into ideas. He hunted them. By the time he painted this in 1954, he had already passed through surrealism, through Freudian dreamscapes, through melting watches and burning giraffes, through the spectacular theater of his own public persona. He had become the most recognizable artist alive, and he had grown impatient with it all, because something had happened that changed everything. In August of 1945, 2 atomic bombs erased 2 cities in seconds. What had been invisible, the interior of matter, the energy sealed inside the atom, suddenly announced itself as the most powerful force human beings had ever touched. Science had reached inside reality and found something it could barely contain. Dali did not respond with despair. He responded with obsession. He began calling his new direction Nuclear Mysticism. The name alone tells you everything. Not nuclear science, not nuclear fear. Mysticism. The belief that what physics had accidentally found at the center of the atom was the same mystery religion had been chasing for 2,000 years. That splitting matter open didn't disprove the divine. It simply revealed where the divine had been hiding all along. That belief is what built this painting. Look again at the figure on the cross. There are no wounds, no nails driven through the palms, no blood running in dark lines down the wrists and feet, no torn skin, no collapsed expression of unbearable pain. The body is calm, athletic even. Every muscle is still, not with the stillness of death, but with something that reads more like arrival, like a figure that has already passed through suffering and emerged somewhere else entirely. This was a radical choice, and Dali made it deliberately. Every Renaissance master before him had placed violence at the center of the crucifixion, the blood, the agony, the physical cost of sacrifice, because the humanity of the suffering was the point. Suffering made Christ real. It made the story land inside the body of the viewer. Dali removes it, not to diminish the sacrifice, but to relocate it. To suggest that the suffering belongs to a lower dimension, the 3-dimensional world of flesh and gravity and time. Up here, on the impossible cross, something different is happening. The body floats above pain, above matter, above the rules that govern everything below. The serene Christ is not a figure emptied of meaning. He is a figure who has already crossed the threshold most human beings can only imagine. Below him, the ground refuses to be ordinary. A chessboard stretches beneath the scene, black and white squares extending outward with geometric precision, dividing the earth into perfect, ordered units. It is the language of calculation, of moves and consequences, of a world that operates according to rules, whether or not the players understand them. And above it, the impossible cross floats in a geometry the chessboard cannot contain. 2 languages of reality, placed in the same painting, refusing to merge. The chessboard is where we live, structured, rational, consequence-bound. The tesseract exists somewhere the chessboard's rules do not apply. Dali places them in the same frame, not to resolve the tension between them, but to make you feel it. The distance between the ground and the cross is not physical, it is dimensional, and no amount of looking upward closes it. That distance is where the painting lives. Standing at the edge of the chessboard, looking upward, is a single robed figure. She is Gala, Dali's wife, his muse, the emotional constant of his life across decades of reinvention and instability. She does not reach toward the cross. She does not weep. She does not perform grief for the viewer's benefit. She simply watches. That stillness is the most human thing in the painting, and the most precise choice Dali made. Gila belongs to our dimension. She stands on the chessboard, within the rules, inside the world where time and consequence and loss are real. And she looks up at something she cannot reach, cannot enter, cannot fully comprehend. Not with despair, with witness. Dali painted her there because transcendence requires a human perspective to mean anything. Without Gala standing below, the Tesseract Christ is merely geometry. With her, it becomes longing. It becomes the oldest human gesture, the one where we stand at the edge of what we can perceive and look towards something we can feel but never hold. She is every person who has ever stood beneath something larger than understanding and chosen to stay. Most people, encountering this painting, file it under Dali's eccentricity, the shocking surrealist doing something provocative with religion, the theatrical genius using the sacred to disturb the comfortable. But that reading stops at the surface, and the surface is the smallest part of what is here. Nothing in this painting is random. Every geometric edge is deliberate. Every shadow falls with purpose. The emptiness of the landscape is not absence, it is pressure. The barren sea, the dramatic sky, the vast stillness surrounding the central image all exist to remove distraction, to make you look at the impossible thing and stay with it long enough for the question to form. The question Dali spent the last half of his life trying to answer. Every generation, human knowledge hits a wall, and at that wall, something cracks. Not in reality, but in the model of reality the previous generation mistook for the truth. The telescope cracked the medieval sky. The microscope cracked the boundary of the visible. The atom cracked the concept of solid matter itself. Each time, the world turned out to be larger than the tools available to describe it. Each time, what had seemed like the edge of existence turned out to be the edge of perception, and beyond it, something stranger and more extraordinary than the previous map allowed. Corpus Hypercubus is a painting made at one of those moments of cracking. The atomic age had just shattered the certainty that the visible world was all there was. Dali, instead of mourning the lost certainty, pressed his hand against the crack and asked what was on the other side. His answer was this painting, not a proof, not a doctrine, not a manifesto, a bridge, built from geometry and faith, and the specific hunger of a man who could not accept that matter was the final word on existence. That hunger has not aged. We live today inside invisible systems we cannot fully picture, digital architectures, quantum uncertainties, forces that shape our decisions without ever becoming visible. We have accepted, in practical terms, that reality extends beyond what we can directly sense. We carry this acceptance lightly, the way you carry anything you have stopped questioning. But the question Dali asked has never been fully answered. If reality is larger than we can perceive, if dimensions exist beyond the reach of human senses, then what does that mean for the things we have always placed beyond the visible? For the things we have built crosses and temples and equations to reach? The painting is still there. It has been hanging in the Metropolitan Museum of Art for decades, quietly floating above whoever stands beneath it. The golden tesseract, unchanged. The serene body, unbothered by time. Gala watching from the chessboard floor with that permanent, unresolved gaze. Dali built a bridge between two worlds that had been told they couldn't coexist. He built it from mathematics, from faith, from obsession, from the specific terror and wonder of a man alive at the moment the atom split, and he made it impossible on purpose, because a bridge between incompatible worlds has to be.